on the chamber.
Yes, but it's not coming up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
You happy enough to proceed? That's it now.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Mutry.
Thank you, Chair. Can I tender apology on behalf of Alderman Anderson, please?
Okay, thank you. Item 2 on the agenda, item 2, declarations of interest. And we can take those as we go through if everyone's happy enough with that. Okay. Item agenda 3, Strategic Director's Report. And even though it's for information, Olga wants to go through some of the points with. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. Just want to sort of give you an update in relation to the Mid-South West Region Growth Deal and some points just for members' information. Recently, the Chair and the Vice Chair rotated, so Councillor McElduffin from Ananoma is the Chair and Councillor Sam Nicholson from our Council is the Vice Chair. In terms of the report, you will see the outcome of the complementary fund and the projects that were awarded under this first tranche of allocation. For the Mid-South West region, the bid for the Industrial Investment Challenge Fund was successful and an award of $7.5 million was made. And we are working up the bids for the second round of the fund, which includes the Denny site. In terms of transforming our high streets, this proposal is going to be looked at in terms of the recently produced report on the High Street Task Force delivering a 21st century high street. We've also looked at our proposal for Armagh City as part of our reinvigoration and regeneration scheme, and it's going to be moved under that regeneration element of the growth deal. Work has now started on the development of what's now called the strategic outline cases. And there's a significant amount of work in preparing for the terms of reference so that we can demonstrate the evidence base and the proposed concepts for the project to attract growth deal funding. There was a recent stakeholder meeting at the end of May where the government departments provided feedback and guidance in relation to the development of the interventions. And with our colleagues in Fermanagh and Mid Ulster, we received funding through the UK Community Renewal Fund as part of the first round of Levelling Up. And we're developing a business innovation programme. And so far, almost 70 businesses have participated in productivity and innovation awareness training. The meeting with the Minister for the Economy had technical issues. Only Councillor Nicholson was able to get into the meeting. The rest of us were in the waiting room, but that is now going to be rearranged. And recently, the Chief Executives, the Chair and the Vice Chair, met with the Minister of State, Conor Burns MP, to advise him of all the potential projects and the opportunities for the Mid-South West as part of central government agenda. We've worked up an application for infrastructure enterprise development and clustering supply chains and knowledge transfer with Monaghan and Cavan councils as part of a shared island application. And the first assurance reporting and as part of project management took place yesterday. And I would like to acknowledge all the officers who are working away on the projects. A lot of this work goes unseen, but there's a significant amount of work ongoing. An outline business case is currently being prepared for the Industrial Investment Challenge Fund, and that will be used in terms of the complementary fund as well. So members, that was just to give an overview of the progress that's been made to date on the Mid-South West.
Thank you, Olga. Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Olga. And first of all, Chairman, obviously, I wanted to declare a non-pecuniary interest in the Mid-South West as the new Vice Chair. But obviously, I wanted sort of to support what Olga's just said. There's been a mountain of work has been done so far in relation, and I don't think we can fathom the amount of work that's required to even be able to put a bid in for these types of funds. And as Olga has said, we had one successful bid within the first round of complementary fund, but unfortunately, Chairman, obviously that's welcome, but our other bids didn't make it. And to say we're disappointed is an understatement. Obviously, there's another second stage of the complementary fund, which Olga has talked about, which again will be obviously working those bids up again and giving them a go. Unfortunately, the first round, Chairman, as we suspected, was a political decision. It was a carve up in relation to the funding, but hopefully the second round will be more successful. We also had a recent engagement with the Invest NI panel, who's doing a sort of a review of Invest NI. It was last week. On that panel is Sir Michael Lyons, who's the chair, Dame Rotha Johnson, MBE, and Maureen O'Reilly, and Olga was there herself. And I think it was a very worthwhile engagement. And a lot of things were sort of put across to them of the concerns that's been raised, within this chamber. One of which, again, my colleague behind me, Councillor Savage, logistics, not being recognised as one of the industries within the 10. We talked about the economic 10, and obviously there's only so much they can do, because obviously their paymasters are the Department of Economy, and then so it shows the importance of that meeting with the Minister for the Economy. And unfortunately, as Olga said, it didn't happen. But hopefully it'll happen again in the near future. And the other thing, Chairman, again, and I know it's something you're quite interested in your tenure this year, is with a meeting with Conor Burns, MP, and he was very, very clear, and he outlined that, there's a lot of funding available out there at the minute. And he said that it's, it'll go to the best projects or the best sort of bid. Now, he did say, there's levelling up, there's shared prosperity, there's growth deals, there's Peace Plus, and there's shared island. So again, I think we as a council need to be proactive, in this term to get ourselves, in a position we can put a really good bid together for these, because the most alarming thing he said, that obviously there's meetings in Westminster with various people, and the things that we were saying to him, in our meeting, he wasn't hearing from the elected reps, which was a bit frightening, because we were obviously talking about infrastructure and skills shortage and tourism and digital and all innovation and pharmacy and agri-food and all the different things. And he was very much saying, look, the ball is very much in your court. Get your bids together, and the funding's there. But all in all, I suppose it's a new concept to us. As I say, it's very rare. It's our council in Mid-Ulster from Melanoma, and it's a new concept of a partnership. But I have to say, thus far, it's going very well, and it's delivered this one, part of the complementary fund. But hopefully going on in the future, and as Olga says, a lot of work going on in the background. Again, I want to sort of second what Olga said there about the staff. The amount of work they do, you don't see is phenomenal. So hopefully, Chairman, we'll see a bit more sort of delivery within it, in the near future. But that sort of gives you a bit of a taster of where we're at anyway. So thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson. Councillor Kevin Savage.
Thank you, Chair. Just to declare no pecuniary interest, as I'm a member of the steering group as well, and also to concur with what Councillor Nicholson says. He maybe should have wrote that report, but thanks, Sam. Cheers.
Thank you, Councillor Savage. Councillor Pope.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Olga. Yeah, I was just to ask Olga, is there any further sort of feedback, maybe from the bids that, weren't successful, from the bid team? Were there different directions as well that, maybe we were pointed in the future? If you could share that. Thank you.
Yes, the feedback that we received was that the complementary fund was not limited to just like economic projects. It was so any project could go forward relating to any of the other government departments' priorities. And that's why when you look at the list, you'll see there's some regeneration schemes as well that have come through from other government departments. So that's the feedback we got. There was a significant amount of applications. That was just the first phase. And but we have raised the issue of the need for industrial land, for brownfield regeneration. These are all enablers for infrastructure that aren't traditionally funded through any other sources. So, and there's been a lot of engagement at a senior officer level with senior civil servants in relation to this as well.
Enough, Councillor Pope?
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor O'Hanlon.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And like others, I just want to declare an interest as a member of the Mid-South West Board and to add my thanks to the staff behind the projects. As Councillor Nicholson said, there's a lot of work that goes on, and Claudine in particular, who leads the group, is an excellent officer and has been doing a lot of good work, but it's pulling together work from across officers from across councils, so I want to be associated with it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor O'Hanlon. 3.2.
Thank you, Chair. And this report is in relation to an update on our recovery and growth framework, but also to talk about our new economic agenda for the council as well. And members will be aware that we launched our recovery and growth framework last February, and it was a route map emerging from the pandemic and the priority thematic areas that we needed to focus on. There were a wide range of businesses, traders and umbrella groups and government stakeholders who were involved in developing the plan. And we listened to specifically what the businesses were saying in terms of what challenges that they were facing and what opportunities and enablers that they want us to be focusing our priorities on as well. And then we brought that back and we had workshops with members. The vast majority of the short-term actions have been delivered. And just as a highlight, 2.2 million as part of the COVID recovery, the high-profile We Missed You campaign, various incentives that were brought forward to help businesses at that time. We put in place a redundancy protocol and initial support for jobs fair. 1.5 million was repurposed in terms of our business development programme. We helped retailers and traders develop their presence online through digital support initiatives. And then we did some very specific sector briefings for hospitality and tourism when they were reopening again, and worked very closely with environmental health in terms of that. The Business Support Hub dealt with 2,400 queries, and members will be aware from the emails all the regular bulletins that were being issued in terms of the various support programs and initiatives and signposting and all the queries that we received as well. And then some of the new initiatives respond to the challenges that businesses have said. So, for example, the HGV Driving Academy that's been put in place. Members will know that the overall economic performance of the council is strong, and that's because we have a real diversity of sectors located in different parts of the borough. So we're fortunate, that we haven't had some of the shocks that perhaps some other areas have experienced. However, and everyone will be aware that we're now in the context of a changing macro environment, and therefore it's important to really start to update our economic agenda. So some of the issues that members have highlighted to us are about the economic cost of doing businesses, especially for small business, the labour market availability at this particular period of time, the global impact on material supplies and how that's impacting on construction projects, the changing funding landscape and now how we are bidding for funding, and the corporate priorities of inclusive growth and the green agenda as well. And as has been mentioned, we are starting to work on various partnerships with various local authorities to work more in regional and also cross-border partnerships as well. So in the context of the Council's community plan, our corporate plan, and also looking at government's policies, we will be seeking the input of elected members, businesses and networks to develop our new corporate priorities for economic development and growth, and to ensure that our borough is and continues to be regionally competitive. So work will start on that so that it's ready for the new council mandate.
Thank you, Olga. There's no hands up. Oh, there is. Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Olga, and thanks for the report. As I say, one of the things, obviously, you and I have chatted about is the big one, labour market availability. And I suppose I don't want to concentrate on one sector, but I think the hospitality sector is one at the moment that is really, really is hurting. And it's just wondering if there's anything we can do, maybe similar to what we did for the HGV type thing, and see if there's anything we can do to help that sector at the moment, because I know what other members are hearing, but the stories all I'm hearing is that just can't get people, so they can't open. And again, you know, our cities and town centres, even economy, all those things are being affected because they can't open. And then the other one, the sector I'm in myself, the construction sector, really worries me because, again, maybe not now, but 5-10 years down the line, where are the construction workers going to come from? Because I don't know, because as I say, I'm on building sites pretty much every day of the week, and I'm not spending too many young apprentices or young workers, and there's an age of a worker there that'll be coming close to retirement the next 10, 15 years, and the last thing we want is to have a dearth of people in the construction sector, because obviously it's such a major part of our economy. So look, that's only two, but obviously I welcome the report and again look forward to sort of taking those things forward. So thank you, Cheryl.
Yes, Councillor Nicholson, the point of the hospitality sector, and it's specifically because it's a service sector, we really do need people, and when visitors are coming to an area, they want to experience customer care and human interaction. So as part of the local labour market partnership, we are looking at bringing forward an academy in relation to hospitality, and also as well in terms of the construction sector. Some of the work that's starting to happen is getting into the schools more at an earlier stage, and probably members will be aware that there's been roadshows going around the province called Foresee Your Future, where it's really aimed at young people thinking about their careers and how do we start to signpost them and show the wealth of opportunities that are out there as well. But also working with the local education partnerships and ensuring that careers teachers and advisors have as much information as possible on what's actually available, and to work with Construction Employers Forum as well in terms of raising their profile in our council area. But I think that this is going to be a real challenge as we continue to support those particular industries that are so reliant on people.
Thank you, Olga. Councillor Pope.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you again, Olga, and thanks to all the hard work by the whole team, particularly in relation to the economic plan and framework over the recent year. I guess my question was to do with the update on the economic agenda. Just looking at the final line, the civic leadership of council and driving growth and development in the borough. And I appreciate you've maybe answered part of that already. It was just really what you were thinking. I mean, were we talking about the governance, or would it be new initiatives or roles, or possibly the priorities of the overall council or the economic? If you could just maybe explain a little bit more, Olga, that would be great. Thank you.
And you know, as councillors, you are normally the first point of contact when people are looking for support and help. They normally contact councillors and ask for signposting and information. So that gathering the evidence on the ground from businesses in terms of what are the challenges, what are the issues that they're facing as well. But as you've highlighted, Councillor Pope, you know, this council has a lot of ambitions in terms of its community plan and corporate plan. It's highlighted the importance of the economy. So this would be setting out as part of our new agenda, you know, what are the main sectors we'll be working on, what are the types of programs we want to bring forward, and how do we work to really help, you know, for example, businesses that are starting up through our Go For It program, to help them to scale and grow and develop as well. So it will be putting really our new plan for the next council mandate.
Thank you, Olga. Councillor Kyle Savage.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Olga, for your report. Basically, just to concur with a lot that Councillor Sam Nicholson has said there, you know, about these academies and how successful the LGV Academy was, and I had raised it at previous meeting about the welding section, the fabrication section within our borough. We are a large engineering manufacturing industry, and I know that a lot of companies that I've been talking to are struggling to get welders and basic. And I suppose it's good in one sense. It shows how affluent the area is becoming. But again, I would like that added on. But it's good to see this report, and that's good to see. But the other bit there too that you did mention, Olga, which I'm happy about, is the schools. I was at a function last Friday in one of the local high schools. I took the opportunity to ask them what engagement they have from council, and do they know what's happening within council, as in the jobs fair and all of that. They didn't know, and that's a piece of work that perhaps needs to be done as soon as possible. You know, it's been mentioned here before that we as council need to be linking that between schools and our local businesses, and there's a piece of work there that needs to be done on that. So it is, you know, but thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Savage. Councillor McAlinden.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. And first of all, I want to wish you all the best in your new role as Chair of the committee. So thank you. Also want to thank Olga for her report. And yes, I would like to be associated with Councillor Nicholson's comments. I suppose as someone who works in construction, and this last couple of years, it's been really difficult for many people to get tradesmen. And I would be keen that the council keeps working with the SRC and trying to promote and get more people into construction. Also, the hospitality, I know in my own town here in Lurgan, there are a number of businesses who are having to close early and maybe down to 3 or 4 days a week because they can't get staff. So it's just those comments anyway, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McAlinden, and thank you for your well wishes. Item 3.3, annual progress reports. I'll hand over to Olga.
Members will be aware that as part of the Council's corporate business planning process, the annual business plans updates have been presented to the Services Committee. So those members who are on other committees will have seen them come through for the other committee remits. And in the appendix are the updates on the achievements of the business plans for 2021-22 from the work that's been going on in economic development, tourism, arts and culture and regeneration. And again, just to highlight the significant amount of work that has been undertaken by all of the departments, and specifically in dealing with response to COVID as well, you know, and helping the different sectors at that time. So the item is for information, but the officers can respond to any particular queries.
Thank you, Olga. No questions. Okay, so agenda item 4, and that's the Head of Economic Development report. And tonight it's been taken by Sarah Jane MacDonald.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. Item 4.1 is an employability and skills update report and memorandum of understanding between Council and local enterprise partners to deliver the Labour Market Partnership Enterprise Pathways Programme 22-23. And if I may just draw a few, or draw members' attention to a few items within the report. First of all, we have detailed data on the current unemployment rate, and as Olga and members have already mentioned, labour market availability is extremely challenging at present. And the current figures, just to add to the report, we have reported between February and April. But for May, the Northern Ireland figure for unemployment is 3.8% of the working age population, and in the Borough, it's 2.5% of the working age population. So it's extremely low. The report also details then information as was requested on feedback from the job fair series and information on the final job fairs event, which will take place on Thursday, the 23rd of June in South Lake Leisure Centre. And just if I may, finally, just a note that we are planning as part of the Labour Market Partnership Initiative to host an ABC Employability and Skills Week in autumn to connect local employers with local people and local schools, showcasing the wide variety of careers and pathways that are available in the Borough. And part of that week will also include an employability conference, so we can really get together with key stakeholders and employers and local businesses and community representatives to connect and collaborate to ensure we can develop a skills pipeline and talent to meet the current and future needs of the local economy, and that we can support local people into local jobs. So the recommendation then before members this evening is that members are requested to, firstly, note the update on the employability and skills interventions across the Borough, and secondly, agree to accept the memorandum of understanding between Council and local enterprise partners to deliver the Enterprise Pathways Startup Support Programme for 16 to 24-year-olds across the Borough until March 2023. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kyle Savage.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Sarah Jane, for your report. I suppose the figure that's jumping out at me here is that there's 6 people have gained employment in that quarter. Down here, you have 102 local employers supported, 674 vacancies promoted, 166 attendees supported, but yet we only get 6 over the line. Is there a reason? What do we need to do to change the jobs fair in general? Is it working well? Or, well, going to this figure, it's not. And I know the low employment rate within the area, that's good, but we're still only getting 6 people into employment. 32% of those companies that attended give you feedback on that. Do we get feedback from those 6 that were employed or what? Is that possible to see, can we do this differently? Can we do more to help the local businesses and people in the area? I know I've been contacted by a lot of businesses, and again, back to what I said earlier on, speaking to a careers teacher in a local school, and they didn't know this existed. So we're failing somewhere along the line here, but we need to fill that gap. So it has to be filled. So it does, but it's a wee bit alarming that there's only 6 people that have gained employment out of this, and the cost of running these events and all of that has to be taken into account. It has to be value for money here. So it's a wee bit alarming seeing that figure of only 6.
Thank you, Councillor Savage. Do you want to come back to that, Sarah Jane?
Thank you, Councillor Savage, and you're absolutely right. It is very stark when you see the figures. The reality of it is just the low unemployment rate, and it gets lower and lower each month. The feedback from employers, you'll see noted in the report, they're finding it extremely challenging to keep their existing staff because the labour market is so competitive. They're also finding it very hard to recruit new staff. Added to those figures, actually, I can add for May, the one that took place just last month, we had 39 employers at that job fair with 118 vacancies. 60 people were registered to attend and only 27 attended. So the reality of it is that it's a really extremely competitive labour market, and getting people through your door or onto your website or whatever point it is very challenging. But the feedback from employers is that they really value this platform to help them reach that wider labour market pool, because even as it stands with their own measures, some of them are finding it really hard to reach people and to attract new people to their businesses. So it's just very, very challenging all round.
Thank you. Councillor Savage, you want to come back again?
Hey, Chair, thank you. No, and I think that's where we need to be connecting in with schools more, because the 16-year-olds, they're the ones that they're either taking an academic route or going into perhaps apprentices or whatever. Just on it, does council promote within that, for the jobs and all, yeah? Has council ever got anybody employed through the jobs fair that they run?
Thank you, Councillor Savage. I don't have that feedback, but I can find out for you. But you're absolutely right, connecting to the skills is really key, and that's why the next initiative for us is part of the Employability and Skills Week in autumn, and we really want to showcase the borough. And it's going to be so much more than a job fair. It's going to be hopefully like mini placement experience, careers opportunities, advice. We want to engage with employers, have them open their doors so people can come in and see our local businesses and really feel what they're about and learn about them and find out about the wealth of careers that are available. So you're absolutely right. It's connecting with the younger people in the borough to show them those careers and help them to choose local. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor O'Hanlon.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Sergeant, for coming along tonight. Again, it's in relation to the monthly job fair stats. Anybody who knows me will have heard me say the quote before. I don't ask questions I don't already know the answers to. And this is the reason I've been asking for this report for the last 3 months. To me, the fact that 3.6% of those who attended gained employment, it's a damning indictment of the process. I understand our staff are doing their utmost, but I think we need to really take a look at this process again and say, look, what else can we do? Councillor Savage referred to the cost and where it's value for money, and I think I'd be keen to see the cost of these job fairs. There's bound to be something we're not doing right, and I'd appreciate some feedback from some of the employers as to what else we could do to help support their recruitment processes. And I understand it's a novel idea, but at 3.6% of a success rate, that's not good in any sphere. And I appreciate we're working in a difficult market, but I would be keen to see what lessons we have learned from this process and what we would do different. And as I said, I'd be keen. I know Councillor Savage talked about the feedback from those who attended and who got the jobs, but also in terms of employers, like a third have said that the fairs have helped with their recruitment efforts within this period of time. That means 2/3 haven't found it helpful. So look, I appreciate the effort that's gone into this, and I thank the report. As I said, this is the third month that I've been asking for it, but I'd be keen now to see what we can do different and what lessons we can learn from this to be able to put in place a revised scheme or revised support for employers in the borough, because it's a very difficult market out there for employers at the minute. So anything that we can do to help, I'd be keen to see us do. So I'd be keen to get some engagement with employers as to what they thought of it, but what they would like us to see to do different. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor O'Hanlon. Do you want to come back?
Thank you, Councillor O'Hanlon, and you've raised some really important points. We are very keen to conduct a full evaluation following the in-person job event on the 23rd of June. We'll certainly be gathering that feedback from the employers and the engagement with anyone who's been employed to see what the lessons are, what we can do differently, and how we can help improve the results at the end of the day, that more people are progressing into employment because of the job fairs. So a future report will be brought back to committee for members. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Jane, and I really appreciate you coming before committee tonight to present what isn't an easy paper.
So, Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman, and thanks, Sarah Jane, for the report. And look, I don't disagree with anything that's been said, and of course there'll be lessons learned. But as I say, it's like anything. I think it's worthwhile doing it. It is a difficult time out there, and there will be things you've done right, and there will be things you want to change. But I wanted to ask a question about the next one. Obviously, you said autumn. Now, obviously, school leavers, August, and we were concerned that you might miss them. Do you know what I mean? If you're trying to connect into the school leavers and they get their exam results in August and they're looking for a pathway into business and apprenticeship, you know, I'm worried. Autumn to me is October, and I'd be concerned that that could be a bit late in relation to that, because I do think, genuinely do think apprenticeships is the way forward for us in these types of industries, to try and get people that don't want to go to the next stage of education. They want to go down a vocational route and learn a trade, whether it be welding, whether it be whatever. And I know there's businesses out there, and I think I've said in this committee, there's a company I do work with in Monaghan, and they bring in 20 students every year into their business, and they're basically a timber frame company. And they basically, out of those 20, they employ 10. So they're designing timber frames for America. So like the world is small. It just shows you what can be done, and the level of skill that we have here in this small place that we are. And the last thing we want is to lose these people, because it's happened too long. You know, there's that the brain drain we talk about, it has been going on too long. So I'm totally supportive of the idea of these fairs and this one for 16 to 24-year-olds. So important. But I'm concerned that, you know, autumn might miss a window there. So I don't know what you can do about that. But anyway, look, Chairman, that's all, and I'm happy to propose. I think you need a proposal, don't you, that one? So I'm happy to propose. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Nicholson. Councillor Macaulay.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And just a quick note to say all the very best in your years, Chair, as well. Thanks, Sarah Jane, for that. But really on the back of what Councillor Nicholson has said, I'm happy enough to second that, just as long as there is, you know, full engagement with our local schools, because being a mum of a 16-year-old doing GCSEs at the moment, I do think it is important. So I'm right at the coalface here at the moment with career choices. The timing of our event in the autumn, it would, you know, maybe I would question that as well. Maybe is there any possibility of having that a wee bit earlier in the year, whenever we are sort of facing that sort of August sort of window that there is fertile ground there as well with our young people, but and that certainly would really encourage some maybe to step forward that maybe wouldn't come October, November time. So basically, really, yeah, as Councillor O'Hanlon has said as well, the figures for these events, I would be very keen to see them as well, because we do need to see a level of return on our investment as a council as well. So happy enough to second, but just a couple of wee pointers. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Macaulay. Jonathan.
Thank you, Councillor Macaulay. Absolutely, we're very happy to look at pulling that date forward. As Councillor Nicholson and yourself have pointed out, it's really important to get the timing right here, and we will do what we can to make that happen. Obviously, we're very aware that we need to meet people where they're at, and it needs to suit them. So we'll certainly do that and do our best, and we'll keep members informed. The funding for that initiative in particular, just to say, is through DFC, and that's Labour Market Partnership. So Council had approved the letter of offer last month. So we're now working through procurement to appoint an organisation to deliver that on behalf of the Labour Market Partnership. So that will take a wee bit of time, but as soon as we can pull that date in and make it happen, we will. Very much so. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Chairman, and all the best for your year. I hope you're at every meeting. I would like to thank Sarah Jane for her very detailed report, because I think we can zoom in on some of the small numbers, but not actually zoom in on the actual full report, which clearly gives a clear indication of what has happened, what has gone on, and what employers are saying, because this is something that we have been debating and lobbying and calling for so long in relation to job fairs, to try and see how we can create greater employment in the area. So in that light, I would tend to be more positive than negative on the basis that it's still 6 people who have gained employment. That is good. 61 attendees have said that the job fairs helped them on their career journey. There's untold stories there that in a committee we not get that, and we can keep going on. But the bottom line is local employers have said that they've cited the low unemployment, and which has made the recruitment and retention of staff very difficult. And for all of us who are speaking to business people quite regular, it's actually getting staff. How many times are we driving around now every day and we're seeing at the end of the roads full-time and part-time staff required urgently? And this has a reflection on whatever job fair you have. And I welcome the job fairs. I think the concept of it's good. Yes, we need value for money, but the bottom line is 6 more people gained employment. And as Sarah Jane has quite rightly outlined, in all of these schemes here, an evaluation will be done, and we'll look forward to that. We'll learn from that. We'll see what can be done to improve that, and suggestions have been made here tonight, but I don't think we should shoot ourselves in the foot. I think it's a welcome scheme. It's something that we can always progress. It's something we can always improve. But I think it's a welcome start. And to Sarah Jane and her staff, I would commend them for the energy, time and effort that they've put into it, and wish them well in the future with the help of us, and we'll work together. It's great to see low unemployment, but it also creates problems then for those who are looking to get people employed. But in one way, it's not a bad position to be in, but on the other, you can see where companies are having problems. And that's not as a result of the job fair or how successful or unsuccessful some may think it was. I welcome it, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. Councillor Tinsley.
Chair, I do have a question, but Alderman Baxter has sent me a message asking, he's been trying to get in. Is he in now? Thank you, Chair. Okay. Sarah Jane, thank you for this. And I'm just new to this committee, so I don't know the whole background to this, except I do understand what it's like trying to work with businesses and recruitment and so on. I have to say, in the past, I've worked with many businesses with regards to trainee management schemes, and I've worked in large organisations where they've brought in the likes of up to 30. And just as Councillor Nicholson said, you know, there's companies and they can bring in 20, but it's all about retention. And a lot of those businesses actually, a very small percentage of them actually stay. They come in, they get the training and they move on. And what we're finding at the moment is there was a term that was used within the industry, the employable or employed. And therefore, a lot of them can go around now because of the price, you know, the minimum wage is now at a respectable level, that people now can move around within the businesses. And so it makes it much more difficult then for businesses to retain the actual staff. I'm actually having issues at the minute with careers teachers. I'm actually at the same as Councillor Macaulay. I have a 16-year-old, but I have a 19-year-old who actually come through COVID. And there was very little in terms of getting out there for the likes of the careers fairs. So we can only hopefully that will improve. But one thing always baffled me was, why do we not have our careers? And I've said this many times to our HR department, why do we not have our own in-house career fair promoting our own opportunities of employment? And I'm not talking about just a recruitment fair for to bring in seasonal staff. I'm talking about there is opportunities for young people that have done their A levels and do not want to go on at university. And I've often said about, like, not maybe calling it a trainee management scheme, and I've said this even over in the likes of the leisure centre, and I know that it has been discussed, Olga, and maybe that's something we can take on board, because I find that a lot of if we can get good young people in and progress them through the business, you have a better chance of retaining of that particular young person. So look, it's only, and I also think it's a good opportunity for them as well, that maybe, especially those that are maybe not just as high achievers, have the university degree background, but are sensible people. And I think it's a good opportunity. So there's just a few thoughts on there, and I'm sure you don't need any more thoughts, but I appreciate you taking them on board, and thank you.
Thanks very much. Olga wants to come back in.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Tinsley. And the point in terms of we're a major employer, and there are opportunities in so many different aspects of what the council does. And recently there have been the different types of recruitment events to try and recruit people for more of those frontline staff as well. But I know internally there are discussions around the potential apprenticeships programme. Public sector is now part of that apprenticeships programme. It hadn't been previously, so that potentially is available. We've even talked about that in terms of technical staff, for example, in planning, where it's so hard, to recruit at this particular period of time. So I'd certainly speak to my colleagues in relation to those points that you've made.
Thank you, Olga. So it's been proposed and second that we go with the recommendation. Is everyone in favour? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 4.2. Again, sorry, Jane.
Thank you, Chair. So item 4.2 relates to the use of the Johnson building and yard for an event in Armagh. And the decision required is that it is recommended that members agree to support a vintage, antiques and collectibles fair within the Johnson building and yard in October 2022 in partnership with a local trader currently trading at the Shambles Market. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and thanks, Georgian. I'm happy to pose this, Chairman. I think that this is fantastic use of the space there. It's a great area for it. It's something that again will bring people to the city. It'll create footfall. It'll do obviously give great benefit to the local traders, etc. So definitely, I'm happy to support this. So thank you, Chairman. Thanks, Sergeant.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson. Alderman Spears.
Mr. Chairman, it has already been proposed, and I am certainly delighted to be able to second that. I think this presents an opportunity. It's an ideal location. Armagh is an ideal place for such a development. I remember the time when there was a number of antique shops within the city, and that has changed to some extent. And I do believe that this is something that can be built on, and I would like to think it could be. The people that organise these antique fairs, they're a fairly active group of people. I've been at some of them in different locations, and there's probably nowhere more suited to it than Armagh, and the particular nature of the historic nature of this particular building. And I certainly have utmost pleasure in seconding the proposal and making sure that hopefully as a council, we begin to sort of maybe target some other potential opportunities in that wider sense of moving markets, whatever, for that particular site. But in the short term, I am happy to second this particular proposal and welcome it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Spears. Councillor McElrath. Mr. McAllen, could you switch your microphone off, please?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, listen, just want to be associated with the remarks already made. It's great to see this type of event coming to anywhere, but coming into Armagh City. I know the lady in question that's made this application has good entrepreneurial spirit, and it's great to see. And as I say, remarks will be very brief, but it's just to be associated with this event and endorse the remarks already made, Chair.
Well, thank you, Councillor McElrath. Councillor McAllen.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think it's an excellent initiative, this, and maybe we could maybe look at replicating this in our other towns in the coming year, maybe. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McAllen. So it's proposed and second. All in agreement? Okay, thank you. Item 4.3, Christmas 2022.
Thank you, Chair. So this item, I would like to just summarise the report, if that's okay, just to take members through the key points. There's a lot of planning, as you're aware, goes into Christmas each year. Christmas is a key component of the borough's growth and recovery, and it's really important for the health of our city, our town centres and villages. It's recognised that Christmas and the festive season is a key trading period for the retail, service and hospitality sectors, and also important time for the community. So this report provides an overview of council-led Christmas events and activities alongside a strong marketing campaign. As members will be aware, a workshop was held with members on the 9th of June to discuss and plan the important strands of this work. So firstly, the Christmas market campaign. All planning and development of the Christmas marketing and promotional campaign will be managed internally between various departments. A strong, comprehensive programme of events, activities and shop/dine in our borough will be offered. And the main aim is to really maximise the value to our businesses and create festive experiences for all residents, shoppers and visitors to the borough. Secondly, the Christmas twilight markets and light switch-ons. Following a review of Christmas 2021 and recovery from 2 years of restrictions, members of the various business associations and chambers have requested the council return to hosting twilight markets in their town centres. Planning of these events will commence during the summer months because this needs to include road closure applications and call for applications to trade. The proposed dates of those events for Portadown, Lurgan, Banbridge and Dromore are detailed in the report. Brownlow Light Switch On. It's also recognised as an important business and community event for primary schools within the Craigavon area. And once again, it's proposed the council works with local schools to host this event. The date will be midweek in the run-up to Christmas and arranged at a time suitable for the schools. With regard to rural festive events then, in 2019 and 2021, members will be aware that Council's Town Centre team coordinated a number of events in the smaller settlements across the borough, mini twilight markets, and then later in 2021, drive-in movies, both very, very successful, and Council's keen to build on those. At the workshop on the 9th of June, consent was reached amongst members to hold events in the following locations: Rich Hill, Tandragee, Keady, Waringstown and Donaghcloney, and further investigation into Rathfriland will be explored and brought back to a follow-up workshop with members. And officers will continue to engage with members over the coming months as plans progress, and particularly if their preference, whether they would prefer a twilight market or movie in their area. The next initiative as part of Christmas 2022 is Silent Christmas, which has been very successful in previous years. And this is an event for children with special educational needs to be able to enjoy Christmas with their family. It's proposed that we will be appointing a suitable organisation to coordinate an enhanced event in 2022 as a post-COVID recovery investment. With regard to festive financial assistance programme then, the 2022-23 call 3 for financial assistance will include the Community Events Fund. The call will open for applicants on the 22nd of August and close on the 16th of September. And this will include the opportunity to apply for financial assistance to support events. And it's just to note that it would be expected that the one-day event applications for up to £500 will most likely be the popular option for eligible Christmas events. And a report will be presented to Council in June to include the proposed detail of this assistance, so members are all aware of the application process. With regard to festive trees then and features, currently 50 trees are being sourced for use across the borough. The trees will be selected in July, cut down, transported and erected around mid-November, with each tree then dressed with festive lights and tested for operation. This task is scheduled in conjunction with the Christmas light switch on and twilight markets, and the installation process continues until the second week in December, when all trees and features have been erected, tested and switched on. It's just to note that trees are more and more difficult with each passing year. Next, an update on the Georgian Festival. It will take place on the weekend of the 26th of November 2022. And feedback from last year is that the event, feedback from last year is being used, to plan and the logistics and the venues for this year, because we anticipate an increase in visitor numbers. The principal event takes place in Armagh City Centre, and after 2 years of disruption due to COVID, the festival will return to a more familiar format, with smaller events taking place across the city's Georgian venues. Engagement will take place with city centre management, traders, retailers, to ensure that the proposal support the retail and hospitality sector. Just to draw your attention that with regard to the light show then that normally takes place as part of the Georgian Festival, that this year it's proposed there will be a minimal charge for the light show. This is purely as in previous years, large numbers of tickets have been not used. So the plan is to keep the charge to a minimum though, but it's purely for that reason. And then finally, just to update members that Christmas off-street car parking is also being planned, and that's detailed within the report. The report also details then just the breakdown of the financial implications. So the recommendation before members this evening is that it is recommended that members approve the programme of activities, events and campaign detailed within the report, and agree to contribute an additional investment of £155,000 from Council's COVID recovery funds for an enhanced Christmas programme for 2022. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah Jane. Councillor Kyle Savage.
Certainly not me. Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Sarah Jane, for this. Look, happy to propose that we go with this, but there's a couple of points. After sitting on the working group last week, it's an additional 155,000. I had asked what is the overall budget for the whole Christmas event, and also just about, there was a portion about additional areas requiring trees and lighting and all of that. We don't have a policy in that, so we don't. But we need a policy on it, be that on population or commercial heart or whatever. Because, like, you know, I have areas there, Warrinsford and Gibson's Hill, that's every bit as large as some of the other areas, and I'd request trees for those. So, you know, but where do we start and where do we stop with this? You know, so we do need a policy that has to be enacted on. And the other thing, whenever we're talking about Christmas trees, we have an environmental responsibility within council. And I would like to see this council enact on a policy to plant Christmas trees where possible within the areas and with community buy-in. And I think that is good for the environment, it's good for community, and it's good for council to do that. So it is the silent Christmas, obviously, yes, 100% behind that. So we are. And the PR that we do it this year, we were Christmas in ABC or whatever, that we're highlighting Armagh, a wee place called Armagh, Banbridge and Craigavon, and we're bringing the whole area into it so people know what we are branding. So it is in the whole efforts of that. So, but in the round, I'm happy enough with that, but we do need a policy in place for this, so we do, you know, and because those are two areas there, Gibson's Hill and Warrinsford, that are neglected at times. So I'd like to add them on, but we do need a policy in place for that to happen. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Savage. Sorry, Jane.
Thank you, Councillor Savage. I've taken a note of those points and I'll come back to you on that. That's okay. Thank you.
Councillor Macaulay.
Yep, thank you, Chair, and thanks, Sarah Jane. Yes, I'm happy enough to second that. Very much welcome just during the rural facility events or festive events there, the further investigation into Riff Island. I do know that the drive-in cinema was a great success last year, so I would hate to go back to the hill to tell them they're not getting anything this year. So I welcome that. On behalf just really of ourselves, just and Councillor Julie Flaherty, my colleague, the Silent Christmas event has been very much welcomed. I would just like to pay tribute just to Julianne Spence with her work on that and all the department as well. So that's been a great success really to date, and welcome the enhanced event for 2022 as well. On the back of what Councillor Savage has said about the sustainable Christmas tree schemes, during my time as a councillor in Newry Morning Down, that was a big scheme. They piloted that for a year, and I would very much like to see our council going down that route. They piloted, I think it was maybe about 7 or 8 locations, obviously in conjunction with communities and the organisations that are involved in that. But to see if that works, because I do understand that not every area is suitable for that. But with community buy-in, I think that is a great idea. It is sustainable. Long term, it brings, I suppose, economic benefits as well. I do realise that maybe it takes a few years for the actual trees to reach their full potential as well. But I do believe that the long-term environmental benefits as well as the economic benefits would be felt by our local communities and us as a council as well. So I would very much urge maybe officers to have a look at that in great detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Macaulay. Well, there's at least one tree, and that's in Scarva. I don't know if there's any more in the borough, but there's one. Councillor O'Hanlon.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Sarah Jane, for the report, and indeed to all the officers who attended the workshop last week. It was a good meeting, and we heard about the pressures on the various departments right across the council in making their preparations and getting ready for Christmas. I particularly welcome the return of the mini twilight markets. I know we had the drive-in cinema in Katy last year, and it wasn't a success, not because of the lack of interest from people, but there was issues around the electronics and the screen and the video that was shown. So I think I know people would be glad to see the return of the mini twilight market. In relation to the overall campaign, as I said last week, I'd be keen for a strapline to come back, something that's not light up the borough. And my rationale in that is that light up the borough could be Lisburn and Castlereagh borough, it could be Mid and East Antrim borough, something that's more focused on Armagh City, Banbridge and Craigavon, and the wider council area as well. In relation to like others, glad to see the return of the silent Christmas. That's very popular and very worthwhile. But in relation to the Georgian Day events, keen that I know last year they tried to use some of the events around the Mall, but be keen that as much of it is back in the city centre, because it's an important day for traders. It's an important day for those in the town centre. And I would fear that trying to stretch it out too much and moving it down and around the Mall would end up with us having a lesser impact in the city centre. So other than that, content with the report at this stage. Just in relation to the light show, I know there's a discussion around a minimum charge. I think members were keen that that was £1. And also members were keen that there was a family package, and we'd be keen for those further details to be brought back in due course. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Hanlon. Sarah Jane.
Thank you, Councillor O'Hanlon. You've raised some really important points, and we've taken note of them in terms of Georgian Day to keep events close to the city centre. You're absolutely right. There needs to be that economic return from the events, so the closer to the businesses, the better. And taking a note as well, it will come back regarding the minimum charge for the light switch on and a family package as well. And more information will be brought to members in due course. Thank you very much.
Sorry, Jim. The one other issue was the Christmas wishes in Armagh and the return of the Santa experience. And I know I know there's a change of use for the building in McCrum's Court, but I had asked that we investigate the possibility of using the Johnson building down at the Shambles Market, or indeed other facilities the council own. I'd be keen that is retained, because as someone who has taken the children to that experience, it was the real Santa there, and you went home knowing that it was the real Santa there.
Who else would it be, Councillor O'Hanlon?
He's from Armagh, for Councillor Savage's benefit.
Sorry, Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think Santa would get out as far as Katy, would he? Thank you very much, Sarah Jane, for a very detailed report and a very encouraging report for those of us who are rural councillors. We're glad to see that once again the rural councillors are getting what we have requested in previous years. Obviously, before COVID, the twilight markets were only really trialled. We're only really a pilot scheme at that time, and a very welcome one, because those of us who got them in Rich Hill, Tandragee and different areas found them to be very beneficial and positive. And yes, it was a big scale, but I'm sure like everything, we can work with Julianne and stuff just to sort of see how we can incorporate it into each town and what each town wants. But there will be some towns like Tandragee that will possibly need one of those road closure permits because of where it is. I think Rich Hill had it down in the community centre, where in Tandragee we can't because it's too far from the town centre. So those are things that would need to be sort of ironed out pretty quick. But it's very welcome. Indeed, only probably just a typing error that Market Hill has not appeared on, because I know the movies, they had the drive-in movies, which was very successful in Market Hill last year, and a thriving town as it is. None of us could leave here tonight unless we got that mentioned and put onto the agenda, because they would understandably be asking the question, they got their movies, but why are they excluded from this? So I think it's vitally important that one of the most successful rural towns is included. But thank you very much. And I look forward to working with our officers on this. We have a great team of officers that work on this, exhausted every year. But I know businesses have already been asking me, are we doing anything this year? And it's good that following this report and this workshop, upon approval at full council, then we can start working with businesses on this. But it's very positive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. Councillor Nicholson.
Yes, Chairman, thank you. And thanks, Julianne, for the report. And like Councillor Barry says, I noticed the typo as well. The Market Hill was left off that list. And as Councillor Barry says, if we went back to Market Hill, our lives wouldn't be worth living, I can tell you. But look, so if we can correct that, that'd be great. No, totally agree with the sentiments in relation to the sustainable trees. I've already been approached by a number of groups asking the question. So look, it's something we should really look into seriously, because as I said, yes, it'll take a few years, but to grow them or whatever, but they'll be there for a long, long time, and environmentally and sustainability wise, it's a very responsible thing to do. Agree with the relation to the charge for the light show. It's common knowledge that people get passes and don't go, and but also agree there should be a family package. Because as I say, I've a few brothers who've got a few kids and stuff, and they were sort of saying to me, Sam, will you only pay £7 for the light show, you know? But look, it's understandable that, you know, charging it, because basically there is a lot of people that don't turn up. But I have to say the light show has been a great success. It's been a fantastic addition. It's kind of like been, you know, the start of Christmas for Armagh City and beyond. Georgian Day, I understand where Councillor Hanlon's coming on, but I actually liked it on the Mall last year. It to me, and a lot of people said to me, the city felt European. It felt like you weren't you felt you were somewhere else. It was just, so maybe there's a balance there. And the traditional, you know, sort of a carousel and things like that, which sort of fit in with the heritage and the sort of the type of city Armagh is. But look, that's really all I have to say, Julianne, apart from obviously I agree with most of what my colleagues have said previously. And thanks to you and all your staff. And I can't believe, and it's not even July and we're talking about Christmas, but it shows you, you know, you have to be, you know, ready and for these things. But and I agree with you, you know, a lot of groups will go for the one day event, which again is great to have that, because again, a lot of groups will do their own thing. And yes, we do need somewhere for Santa in Armagh, because obviously the hole in the wall is extended. It's bar, so I don't think Santa sitting in the hole in the wall bar entertaining the kids would be suitable. So, but we'll find them somewhere, I'm sure. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson. Alderman Spears.
Mr. Chairman, I was just wondering, had someone got the spelling wrong when they mentioned some of the forgotten area that we hear about when they left Market Hill out, but that's only a point in passing. I just, for the life of me, can't understand why the centre of the universe, in fact, the best business town within this community, within the rural community, certainly Market Hill. And last year we talked about this, and I do remember participating in that debate, and it was around stage 2 towns, stage 3 towns. Now we have a bit of a mixture here. Rathfriland's a stage 3 town or a tier 3 town. Equally, Market Hill is. Warringstown, KD, Rich Hill and Tandregee, I think they're tier 2s. So I certainly would want to focus on Market Hill when it's not there on this list. And the next time we see this list amended, it must be there. The second point I want to make is in relation to what happened in Tandregee. I felt the market in Tandregee was quite good because it was in the centre of the town and it was likely to add to the activity within the town of shops. They were open and they should be on the night in question. Equally, what happens in Rich Hill is not good for business, and I certainly would want to see it when we develop it in Rich Hill, that it's developed where it can be a benefit to the shops. We had it down in the car park at the amenity site or at the community centre down in the car park. Literally, there was nobody in the centre of the village, so it was doing nothing for the pubs or the businesses within the village. So I think, we need a bit of reflection there and need a bit of focus as to where is the right place to hold these. Now, I appreciate there is issues of closing streets and whatever, but I think if our focus is a market that brings a lot of people from stallholders to sell things within the community to provide an activity, that's good. But I think the benefit of it should also be reflected to the community that it's in. And that's the point. I think the whole focus of them should be based on, yes, the family evening, but the economic return for the area in question. That's just a point I feel strongly about. And I feel that in the case of Rich Hill, it's evident. It's very well attended, a lot of people there. It's divorced from the centre of the village, and I would like to see it somewhere back in, somewhere near it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Spears. Alderman Baxter.
Thank you, Chairman. And I'm a bit near Christmas by the time that everybody speaks on this particular issue. But just so I'll be very brief, Chair. And I think for the benefit of Councillor Nicholson and Councillor O'Hanlon, Councillor Kyle Savage and myself will know that the real Santa Claus resides in Donaghcloney throughout the year on the Drumlin Road. So I'll let you draw your own conclusions.
Is he on committee tonight?
No, he is not. He is not. Too busy. He's too busy. Just on that, listen, very happy to support that and thank the officers for the work that they're doing year on year. They're always very, very successful. Yes, there's a few teething problems, as Councillor Hanlon said last year with the cinema screen and all they had out there in Katy. We had a very successful event in both Donaghcloney and Warringstown with the films. Actually went down very well. But the market, we do ourselves every year, but I think whenever Council came on board a couple of years ago, it just adds that level of professionalism to it that community groups just can't do, and they're very, very welcome in those rural areas. So we just asked that officers, after this is ratified at Council, that they would work with the community groups they worked with before, just as quick as possible to start making plans for that. And I know it is only June or July, but the quicker we do that, the better. But fairly supportive of everything that they're doing. I thank the staff for it, because the staff that are on the ground on those nights, they're fantastic, and there's just so much organised in that and such a lot of things to tie up. So I just want to pay tribute to the staff for all that they do around those Christmas events as well, and for bringing their report tonight. It's very, very, very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Baxter. Councillor Tinsley.
Thank you, Chair. And Sarah Jane and all the team that presented on the night was excellent. It was an excellent workshop. I'm always very conscious that workshops are not minuted And there's a couple of points, although Councillor O'Hanlon has actually touched on one of them, and that was I was very disappointed to hear that the Christmas wishes had actually, there was a reason why, and Councillor O'Hanlon has touched on that. So I just wanted to make sure it was minuted tonight that that was going to be investigated, and perhaps not for this year, but for other years to come. And I actually think, I don't know why it's just unique to Armagh. I think it is such a fantastic event. I would like to see that rolled out, and I actually mentioned that on the night. So when we're investigating Armagh, if we could look at alternative sites for that, Brian, that would be very, very useful. And the other thing that I had raised on the night was when we were discussing the charge, and initially it was £2, and I had sort of thought maybe that was a bit much, and members agreed. But my other proposal was as well, rather than putting it into our pocket, I thought it would be actually an excellent opportunity for the Mayor's charity. And I would actually like to make that as a proposal. But if you have to come back with working together a package, could you also include that in the package as well for me? Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Tinsley, and they can take that into, for the next workshop meeting. They can bring that back. Councillor McElrath.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Sir Jane, for the report. It's great to see the rural towns and villages being included. Someone was making a quip that Market Hill wasn't included, but I was just wondering, had Annaghmore been left off that as well? But just on that subject, and it's already been raised here, just how we differentiate and how we allocate and so on. And Sarah Jane, you're probably the only person in this council that I haven't spoken to about a Christmas tree in Annaghmore. And last year, the village had one of the best switch-on events in this borough, and it wasn't funded by this council, and they purchased their own Christmas tree. So I'm led to believe that we're at a reasonable stage this year to get Annaghmore included. It's got a vibrant school and church and additional housing over this last few years. And I think we have to be fair and equitable across this borough. And I see there's additional money included for enhanced, and I hope new villages to be included, because we have some really good villages as well. Again, there's been mention made of other areas as well, but the report is welcome. The additional money, fantastic. But I would like to see and put on record tonight that this coming year, because for 2 years I've hammered at this, that I want to see council involved in providing facilities, Christmas lights, Christmas tree in Annaghmore village, if at all possible. And there is a group now there, Annaghmore Village Community Group, a vibrant new group who would be willing to take this on. And I just hope that they can be included this year in the new scheme and the new money. So yeah, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McElrath. Do you want to come back on this, Sergeant?
Thank you, Councillor McElrath. Just to say that I've taken a note regarding Annaghmore and also Market Hill. I know it's been mentioned previously by members, so definitely we'll follow up with those areas and any other areas through the workshops directly with members and report back to committee. But thank you very much for your feedback. Thank you.
Olga, you want to come back in there?
Yes, and thank you, members, for your input and the feedback. And just to say, this is probably one of the examples where it is a one council approach for the organisation of Christmas. And a lot of our technical crew who are actually out, putting up the trees, putting up the lights, all the organisation that goes into that. It is a real logistics in terms of planning as well. So sometimes the frontline staff may not get as much recognition as the officers. So I think it's important that we acknowledge, there's a lot of operational staff work extremely hard around Christmas as well.
Thank you, Olga. So it's proposed and seconded. Is everyone in agreement with the recommendation? Thank you. So items 4.4, 4.5, 4.6 are all for information, unless there's any questions. Councillor Pope.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it was just on 4.6 on the city and town centre update. I was very pleased to attend the launch of the Retail NI High Street Heroes 2022 initiative at Stormont yesterday. And just to highlight as well, Julianne Spence's hard work in relation to that. And I guess the question is what could this council do to support that initiative and also benefit from it? And really championing our local and independent retailers who are facing numerous pressures at the moment, increases in costs, the increase in energy costs. And I guess personally, I'd like to see maybe a closer alignment between this initiative and some of the council initiatives or events. So I would appreciate maybe a quick comment from an officer. Thank you.
Thank you, Olga.
Yes, Councillor Pope spoke very briefly to Julianne on this, so I certainly will follow up with her. And as a borough, we really have always championed shop local, support local, and especially around our independent traders, because they are really the community of our town centres as well, and they have been on our high streets for many years, where some of the major outlets do come and go. So certainly I'll follow up in terms of the points that you've raised, and we'll come back and let members know what more can we do in terms of support for the independent sector. And there have been different things. We've been working with Retail NI over the years on some of their campaigns too, and that's why those incentives that we talk around, especially around Christmas, are so important for the independent sector. So I certainly will bring back more information on it.
Thank you, Olga. Councillor Kyle Savage.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to follow on what Olga had said there about the high street, not about shop local, support local and all. Fantastic what council's doing that. We just need to get council to do it itself in shopping local and buying local instead of buying flowers out of Scotland. That's not really what I'm coming on about. It's 4.5 and about the agri strategy and food heartland update. And just like to thank the staff for attending the two local shows. I was at Lurgan show and it was fantastic to see the response and to listen to the traders and all the work. And they're very thankful to council for getting the opportunity to showcase their produce. So it is, but I think, we've got to get a feedback from those producers that were at the shows. But also if we take a look at point 1 where it says we've got to expand and involve food heartland. And I think it would be nice to see the like of a cookery demonstration using local produce and at these shows going forward. This is a perfect opportunity for local producers to showcase exactly what they have and the advantage of shopping local and supporting local through the local produce and that. And so it's good to see that this is getting a bit of light here tonight and that there is a bit of action on the agri strategy. There's a lot of work has went into it and there's a lot of staff time and all went into it, and there's a lot of the rest of us have put a lot of time and effort into this. So it's just moving down to key stakeholders. I see everybody in that there. The most important person in the whole lot, which is the farmer. The farmer needs to be represented at each and every step of the way here. So he does. And or they do, sorry. And they need to be represented on every possible format here within this. It's important. No farmer, no food. Simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Savage. Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and thanks, Olga, for the report in relation to the food heartland and the agri strategy. I concur with my colleague here behind me. Obviously, it was great to have it at Balmoral, and I know it's got a lot of traction, a lot of people talking about it. Have it at the two local shows in Lurgan and Armagh, and obviously now we as a committee, want to be driving this thing forward. So obviously we'll be watching in the next period of time to see how we do move this thing on. There was a roadmap, and we need to get on that sort of track as quickly as we can to start the delivery. And as Councillor Savage says, we need to include all stakeholders, right from the farm to the fork, so to speak. So definitely, but really, I wanted to sort of, Sharon, if you allow me, in relation to the Go For It element in the report. Again, I'm going back to our discussions, Olga, last week in the with the Invest NI panel, and obviously the Go For It program come up, and obviously everybody's very supportive of the Go For It program, and it's so important for business startups and things like that. But there was a feeling that there was no in between in relation to it, and something maybe that we should look at, from the feedback from that meeting, Olga, in relation to that program going forward. It was almost like, we get a startup and then it's kind of, you let them go. And so look, it was talked about, the small, the medium, the large, and obviously, concentrating on our new Indigenous business. A lot of people talk about FDI, and obviously we'd welcome FDI in this borough at any stage, but it's not the silver bullet, and we do have to obviously concentrate on growing and developing our local businesses, which are now export leaders in the world, as it was accepted at that meeting. So I think, when you talk about the names that we have in this borough, they're recognised worldwide. So it shows you what you can do if you create that sort of support network. And it is something that was brought up, but I think we as sort of part of that process, we need to maybe have a conversation with the Department of Economy and relay those issues. But thank you, Chair. I see Olga nodding away there, so I'm assuming she's got that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson. And yes, after the session that we had in the morning, in the afternoon, actually the businesses from across the three council areas attended, and some of whom were small businesses. And that was the point that they were making. There's a lot of support at the initial stage, but then in terms of helping them scale up for growth, it's very fragmented out there as well. And as a small business owner, where do they go and signpost? And so we will take that feedback on board as well. And actually, even from members, the announcement today by Armagh, in terms of their continued growth and expansion, like a homegrown local company headquartered here in our borough, and almost 6,000 employees throughout the world. The success for Indigenous businesses is critical for our future growth. So, but we need to see those figures in terms of the Go For It programme continue to evolve. There's lots of business plans and lots of jobs, but where are the companies that are going to be future growth companies? And that's the work that we need to be working with the enterprise agencies to help those companies avail of any support that's out there.
Thank you, Olga. Alderman Spears.
Mr. Chairman, the first thing I want to say in relation to agriculture is I want to congratulate the folk that are behind the Armagh show, Armagh County Agricultural Show. Anyone that attended that event on Saturday, number one, will know the amount of effort and work that goes into preparation for that event. And as a community, our best thanks is due to those that undertake that work and carry it out. It was a superb event. I never seen a crowd like it. I don't know the actual numbers of attendance as yet, but it certainly had a massive support from the community far and wide. And I would like to put on record my thanks and indeed I suspect the thanks of this council, all to our staff who were involved in the food heartland within the marquee, and all the work that the various council staff done in making this event and promoting this borough, and indeed creating the space and opportunity for some of our key producers and food producers to showcase their products. I thank them for that. As regards the agriculture strategy, yes, it's a clear roadmap. Roadmaps sometimes raise expectations. Expectations, we don't want to see them dashed. We want to see the work continue here. We had a roadmap, but we want to see the steps forward in relation to how, and a plan as to how we move forward in relation to implementing the various strategies, the various aspects of the strategy. And I think it's something through you, Chairman, that I would like to see a clear picture develop as to how we touch the various sectors, the various buttons within that strategy with a view to delivering and mark out clearly. And this will mean engaging with others, departments and people outside council, but we need to have a clear pathway and one worked out. So that's all I want to say. I suspect that we will visit this fairly quickly and chart out a way forward and target and produce a target for how we move forward to implement the plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Spears. Councillor McElrath.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be very brief, and it's just simply to commend the staff that were involved in the local shows, but also very importantly in Balmoral, and it's already been referred to. Fantastic pitch that you had just close to the doors. It was you couldn't have got a better spot, and certainly any of the time that I was around, the stands were all busy. And just by way of encouragement, I was speaking to another business in the hall from outside the area, and they were very envious of what we have here in ABC in terms of the food heartland, and was inquiring how he or they could be part of it. He uses Bramley apples in his product, and he was trying his best to see how he could get in with our food heartland, but he was very complimentary about what we had on offer. So yeah, just a word of thanks to all involved.
Thank you, Councillor McElrath. So we move on to agenda item 5, Head of Tourism, Arts and Culture report. Over to Brian.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. So the report under 5.1 relates to the erection of blue plaques, and I'll pick out a few salient points if you'll indulge me. The Ulster History Circle is a voluntary not-for-profit heritage organisation placing commemorative blue plaques in public places within Northern Ireland in honour of people who have contributed to all genres of history. Council previously had an agreement with the Ulster History Circle, which has since lapsed. And in 5.1.2, there's an outline in terms of the selection criteria that they put in place with everyone that's considered. And the way the process works, once names are identified, which they will in part do, but again, I know we've had a number of representations in terms of people who may be honoured. They will do extensive research into the history of each of the people and bring forward then sort of further recommendations. So the recommendation before members this evening is that members approve funding of £5,200 for the Ulster History Circle to erect a blue plaque each year for the next 5 years within the borough to commemorate important historical figures. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Councillor Kyle Savage.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Brian, for the report. I know we've had many a conversation about these blue plaques. I'll give you a list of a few from my own area. And I look forward to seeing this progress forward. And it's important that we remember people that give so much to our communities that are no longer with us, you know. So I'm happy to propose this. And I see you're getting a light run tonight anyway, so you are. But just if I may, Chair, just indulge for a second, I want to thank Brian and Sarah Jane and Nicola for the meeting they hosted last week with the sheepdog trials. We have the Worlds coming to Guildhall out near Dromore, Jim. And so with an expectation of 50,000 visitors over a 4-day period. So that is something fantastic, and we need it only to the next one. And but I think, you know, we need the full weight of council going in behind this. This is a massive event already. The Sego Hotel, Banville and the Downshire are booked up for that event, which is September 23. So that shows you the importance of this. And I think council's full weight needs to go behind us and give it every support they can. So thank you, Brano and Sarah Jane and all for that.
Thank you, Councillor Savage. Councillor Macaulay.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And thank you, Brian, for that. I'm happy enough to second that. And just on the back of Councillor Savage's big announcement of the sheepdog, I'm going to have to get into training. But I don't think my dog Jess is much maybe up to scratch. So yeah, happy enough to second that. And thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Macaulay. Councillor O'Hanlon.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Brian, for the report. I'm particularly glad to see the traditional songstress Sarah Macom mentioned in that, and would be delighted to see that take part. So well done on that, and happy to support it. And just in relation to Councillor Savage's point about the sheepdog trials, well, if they're stuck for accommodation, there's a place down the road called Armagh City. I don't think I've ever heard Councillor Savage talk about it, but if he does, there's accommodation there if needed.
Thank you, Councillor O'Hanlon. Councillor Duffy, you had your hand up.
Yes, I was just going to touch on something Councillor O'Hanlon said there, Chair, and it's good to see that list, and it's good to see a couple of women on the next list that's going to be considered, and hopefully they're brought forward soon as. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Okay, so we need a secret proposer. Oh, we've already got a proposer and a seconder. Everyone happy enough to move forward with that? Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I need a proposer and a seconder to go into committee for consideration of confidential business. Proposed by Councillor Barry, seconded by Alderman Spears. Members and online viewers, in accordance with Schedule 6 of the Local Government Act, we will now be moving into a confidential session of council. This means that we will be turning off the public feed of the meeting. This will be returned when the meeting is restarted. Can I ask that ICT officer please turn off the feed and confirm to me when the confidential section of this meeting can proceed? Thank you. No, okay. Okay, so item agenda number 7 is correspondence. I have no correspondence. And item 8 is any other relevant business, and I haven't been notified. So I would thank you all for coming along, and thank you for your forbearance in my first night as chair of this committee. And I wish you all a safe journey home. Thank you.